Thank you, ma'am.
And industry members, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Andhra Chamber of Commerce, I welcome you all to the 13th SOMAYAJULU Memorial Post-Ukraine World Economy and its impact on India. Thank you, sir. I'd like to welcome Dr. Venkatramana, past president of the Chamber, who happens in industry, and there were many industrialists who have been the presidents of the Chamber since its inception. Shri J.V. Somayajulu, MAB, he led an industrial and trade delegation to Southeast Asia and Japan in 1955. He had contributed a good deal towards industrial corporate development in the southern region. The endowment has been created to perpetuate the memory of him. The object of the endowment is to organize a memorial lecture annually by an eminent personality on a topic of current economic importance. As we are all hearing from the news that the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine will reportedly have major ramifications for the global economy, which is just recovering from the stress of the coronavirus pandemic.
You also set a high bar for the speaker. Your expectations go up, and so I have to perform as well as the introduction commands me and justifies it. So, this is not one of those subjects, which any person would like to spend an evening with. It's a very, very difficult subject because this is a subject which I have been studying not in the context of what is happening today, but in the context of what has been happening in the world in the last 35 years. Because the world has never been a settled world, in my opinion. An unsettled world was projected, and we were convinced that this was a settled world. And we were proceeding from an unsettled world, thinking that it is settled. And we are saying, no, it is an unsettled world. The fundamentals of this world was always under stress. So I have to give a historical background. And without understanding the historical background, it is not possible to understand what are the changes that are taking place today and what is likely to be the emerging world order. In fact, most people do not even know what is world order. Particularly in India, the discourse is lacking because the intellectual discourse in India is directed by ideological considerations, not by nationalistic considerations. What the nation should be doing is not the drive of the discourse in India, but what my party, my view, my friends abroad, there are too many complications because we are such an open society. In this society, you have multitudes of thoughts, multitudes of gods, multitudes of ways of worship, multitudes of ways of behavior. If you take the culinary variety of India, millions of culinary varieties in India. But if you look at what is the culinary variety in India, in Europe, from Constantinople to Greenland, it will be about 200 varieties. So India is a country of diversity. If you put India on the one side and the rest of the world on the other, there is more diversity in India than the rest of the world put together. So we are talking about a world out of the world. And in this, there is a government, there is a law, there is a code, there is a behavioral model, and you will be surprised. Unless you know about India, you will not be able to grasp much of what I am going to tell you. You must all go through, as soon as you go from this meeting, a website called nationmaster.com that brings out the crime rates in the world. You know, in all norms of crime, in all kinds of crime, India is one of the lowest in the world. In murder, in rape, in theft, in dacoity. But do we know that? But the way our newspapers project that this is the most crime-ridden country in the world. And you know what has happened in America in the last 150 days? 150 days from 1st January to 30th May. In this period, there have been 329 mass shootings, in which 370 people have been slaughtered and 1097 people have been grievously injured. That is not the picture of America you have in mind. That is not how America is projected by the American media to the rest of the world and even to Americans. They say it's all sporadic things. How many people know that a country with 33 crore population has 39 crore guns? It's a massive issue in America. In fact, many people believe that the 2024 presidential election may not take place in America because of anarchy. All that is needed is a spark. And that country is now directing the world. You can understand if the leader is in such unstable, difficult condition, what can happen to the world? So I think a very critical understanding of what is happening today is very necessary. And I would try to explain in as simple a formula as possible as to what the world is today and where we are. There are two important shifts I would mention. And when I mention, you begin studying this from tomorrow onwards in newspapers, in Western and Indian media. Otherwise, you know, I come and lecture here for 1 hour and I have not come here just to win our applause. I would like to create a critical thinking mass. Otherwise, I am not a platform speaker. If I have come here, it's for two purposes. One, I am really working on this subject. Somewhere I would like to experiment what I am working on, because every year I write a book called Random Thoughts. As chairman of the Vivekananda International Foundation, of course the introduction says I am vice chairman. That was long back. So I write a book called Random Thoughts. This year Random Thoughts I am preparing, so these points have come to my total collection. So it is easy for me to talk because I have already prepared on this subject. Second thing is that this must be known to particularly business people and professionals, because they will be able to easily understand this, or they must understand this more than any other segment of the population. So I will try and explain it as simple as possible at the end, not today, not now. In the post-pandemic situation also, Henry Kissinger, who conceptualized the world order post the Cold War, he was the person who conceptualized not only the world after the Cold War, what should be the relationship between different nations, what should be the balance of power, how America should retain its dominance, what are the instruments, thoughts, institutions through which the Western dominance of the world would last. You know, all these were thought out by the American think tanks and implemented by breaking the communist bloc and drawing China away from Russia. And this happened in 1970s, and he was the master who did it. You know, he flew from Karachi to Beijing in a night, and for the secret visit being arranged by Pakistan, Pakistan commanded the support of America for the next 10 years against India. That is how China shifted its course away from Russia. to America. And it could do it because it was a dictatorship. One man's word sailed through the nation. No other country could have done it. India could never have done it. So from that time onwards, the world order has been shaped by America, and globalization virtually captured all of us into believing that the world of peace and harmony has arrived. There will be no more conflicts hereafter. In fact, Francis Fukuyama wrote a book, The End of History, which meant all the history departments can close down because history is full of conflicts. Hereafter, we are not going to have any conflict at all. The West has finally won against the rest, and it is the rest to follow the West as the best. This was the simple formula he gave. We believed it. It was evangelized. Our newspapers, our thinkers, our economists, our governments, our political parties, all trumpeted. Without knowing what it means, globalization ultimately would mean a global government. It's not possible even to maintain national governments. We believed it. Our thinkers believed it. China didn't believe. Russia didn't believe. We believed it because of the English language. Because we could be easily convinced by English thinkers, because we had a fascination for English people. Even today we have. With the result, in India, real critical analysis of whether globalization would last or not did not take place. When I was personally campaigning against globalization, some of you may have known it, I said globalization is a collapsible instrument, it will collapse one day. When I spoke this in the Administrative Staff College of India in the year 1994, in the audience many people stood up and said, people like you must be shot dead because you are taking the country backwards. That was the state of intellectual discourse in this country. It's a very trying period. People like me could well have, with my kind of corporate practice I need not have got into all this. I didn't want to be in politics, I didn't want to be a minister, I didn't want to be an MLA. But I was worried about the country. This country has a message to deliver to the world, to save the world, which we do not know. Swami Vivekananda knew it. Our education system doesn't train us for this purpose, and that is how we were all trained. That this country is an important instrument not only for itself but also for the world. That's why we struggled for 30 years. And as a result today, you will be surprised, post-Ukraine, India is the world's most sought after nation. I will prove it to you. This has happened not by accident. This has happened by a certain course of events. Many of us do not know, from 1989 to 2014 we had such rickety coalitions. The world did not consider India as a serious player at all. That the Indian people will always be dependent on somebody or the other. It's not a country which can unite. It's so diverse that it can't make an opinion, it can't elect a leader. Only in 2014 this break occurred. And in 2019 it was confirmed. So the people of India played a very vital role in projecting Indian government as a serious instrument. The Forbes magazine wrote an article in the year 2019. Why India grew when China flew. They gave only one chart. The Three Gorges Dam in China, which is bigger than your Narmada Dam, was built in 10 years. But the Narmada Dam was built in 60 years. And the Supreme Court allowed 95 feet, then 97 feet, then 102 feet, and 107 feet. It passed 11 orders to allow it to reach 135. One lady stopped the construction completely. The World Bank funded the project and it also funded her to stop the project. Please understand this. You may understand democracy is a weakness. It's not a weakness. In fact, China is much more unstable with this kind of consolidated power they have than a loose India. But India is a long-term player. So India's time has arrived. That is what all of us have to understand. The shift in the world order has to be seen in the background of 7 distinct phases. First, the pre-Bretton Woods phase. You know, Bretton Woods brought into existence the IMF and the World Bank. And before that, what was the order? The order was that any country which had gold, any country which had commodities, any country which had something natural resource, that was able to command the high value, or it must have political dominance in the world, and we were nowhere in the picture in those days. So from the history of economics starts with 1934, when the Great Depression happened in America. In fact, that if one country is in depression, it will affect other countries. Was not known to economics. It was known to politics. It came to economics via politics. In 1934, what America did, most people do not know. They first confiscated all the gold that Americans had. They confiscated the gold. They built up a gold stock of almost 16 to 18,000 tons in just 5 years. Afterwards, America exchanged steel for gold during the World War. The American gold stock went up to 24,000 tons. You know what is the gold stock? India is estimated to have 40,000 tons. But can you ever confiscate gold in India? Can you transform this social asset, family asset, into national power? America could do it. That is why the dollar became a gold-backed currency under the Bretton Woods. In the post-war situation, every country had become weak. The weakest country was, of course, Germany, Japan, and England. These were all the leading powers. They all became weak. And so America took over the leadership, and the American gold backed the American dollar. American dollar commanded the value of all other currencies, and this ran. It was on the basis. The dollar could be equated to gold. Anyone could go and tell the American Federal Reserve System, I am giving you 1 ounce of gold. Please give me $35. Or I give you $35, give me 1 ounce of gold. This was the exchange rate. Gold and dollar became equal. This lasted till 1971. And in 1971, many countries, these are central bank dealings. No private person can deal with it. Each central bank can deal with other countries. Everybody began demanding that we will give you dollar, give me gold. So America suspended the relationship between dollar and gold and said, hereafter we are not going to give gold for dollar. You know what they did? How to sustain the dollar value? Because suddenly the dollar has lost the gold backing. So they had entered into an arrangement with the Arabs that they will sell oil only for gold, for dollar. You must understand why Putin took that stand today. Unless you compare what happened in 1971 with what is happening today, you will not know the strategic thinking behind Putin's oil for ruble. I will come to it later. So, every country had to buy oil, and so every country needed dollar. So, every country had needed dollar from America. Only America was the supplier of dollar. This was the second phase, third phase. Afterwards, the globalization phase came. The third phase is called petrodollar. I mean, many of you are aware of this term. The fourth phase was the globalization. Globalization 1, I would call it. In globalization 1, America became the supreme power. Whatever America said, everybody had to listen. Because America has won in competition against communism. In fact, an American said it won against the most incompetent competitor. Communism was an incompetent competitor. And they won. Yes, it is victory. It was regarded as the final victory of the West over the rest. Declared so. And so the globalization, WTO, all these things came. Nobody could speak against it. And dollar became a dominant currency on its own. It did not need any backing at all. In fact, in economics, it is said, those who are students of economics, they will agree with what I am saying. If a country continuously incurs trade deficits, current account deficits, its currency values will go down. There is a natural adjustment. If its currency values go down, its exports will increase, imports will come down, and so again the currency values will be restored. From 1976 till 2006, 30 years, except 2 years, America ran current account deficits, and the total current account deficit was almost $11 trillion. That was the extent of dollars America printed and paid to import. So, what must have gone to the dollar value? It must have gone down. So I am really feeling shy of talking in front of Mr. Viswanathan because he knows much more than what I am talking on this subject. But still I have to talk for the entire audience. Dollar value went up by 3.5 times in this period. So economists were flummoxed. How is it that when your country is incurring so much current account deficit and you are exporting dollars? In fact, in 1989, economists wrote an editorial. The most profitable export-oriented industry in America was printing dollars. But still dollar value was going up. Two Harvard economists came up with a fantastic explanation in the year 2006 and said, dollar will not obey economic laws. Dollar is something different. So these economic laws are applicable only to other countries, other currencies. Dollar obeys only the laws of physics. What is the laws of physics? The law of physics is that the universe is held together by a dark matter. Nobody knows what the dark matter is, but the dark matter holds the universe together. Like that, the dollar holds the world economy together. What is the dark matter? The dark matter is America's supremacy, its insurance value as they call it, efficient government, its technology, education institutions, and the geopolitical power, the military power it commands, and the work that America says will happen in the world is what is backing the dollar. It has nothing to do with economics. This phase ended in 2008 with the financial meltdown. Afterwards, the American economy began to be shaky because no economic laws were applicable, and even the value of dark matter, the insurance value of the American system, came to be questionable in 2008, and I don't want to dwell more into it because the very person who led the American economy at that time, Alan Greenspan, he produced a thesis in 2006 that American banks were financing on the basis of the rise in housing values. Okay, you bought a house at 5 crore rupees and the value of the house went up to 10 crore. You began borrowing on the 5 crore additional value as if it is equity. It is called home equity. And they lent $3.2 trillion against it, and that is what propped up the American economy, and it was all a bubble. This bubble collapsed in 2008. Then began globalization 2. That was the rise of China. China was building itself up. It was supplicant. In fact, we must hide and bide our time. This is what the great China builder Deng Xiaoping said that. He said, let us wait till bend. Whatever the American says, listen. Build yourself up. So from 2008 onwards, America began to, every time there will be a crisis. They will call it Mexican crisis. They will call it Asian crisis. But the 2008, they said, is a world financial meltdown. It's actually American financial meltdown. Why are you shifting the geography of the crisis from America to the rest of the world? China questioned it. So for the first time, questions were raised about the American narrative for the world. And in this period, China grew so much. And one of the persons responsible for allowing China to grow, apart from the entire American system which has been allowing this growth for 30 years, was the man called Obama. And in fact, Xi Jinping told him in the year 2013, Mr. Obama, we should now move like equals. Obama shocked. American economy came down rapidly in this period. So the Trump phenomenon arose. Trump was a product of American distress. We must understand it. You may say he was a madman, he was this. He was an American builder. He put the American economy back on the map. He said China is a problem. Russia is not a problem. Please understand that. The man was far-sighted. He said we must build relationship with India. He must say this European Union, this Europe is senseless. Because they are fighting with America, being friends with China. I am going to tell you how the whole discourse changed in the year 2020. So, the entire world opinion was against Trump. Trump was defeated. But Trumpism continued in America. That's important. Trump was gone, but Trumpism did not. So when Biden came, of course Biden is not a very competent leader, but the American system is still competent. You must understand that. You don't look at America through the American president. The American system is a very, very powerful thinking mechanism. It has very powerful think tanks, institutions, individuals, business people. So, I am going to narrate you what happened between European Union and America at the time. European Union was trying to work out, because Trump was putting so much pressure on Europe, they thought it is better to give up America and move towards China. And they entered into what is known as a Comprehensive Agreement on Investments, CAI as it was called. And so they negotiated it in 2019 when Trump was there. In 2020, after Trump was defeated, important point to note, they decided the American system is useless. They signed the agreement on investment with China. After Biden got elected in December 2020, it was a very big political and economic setback for America. In 2021, American thinkers woke up. If Europe, that was supposed to be a big diplomatic victory for Xi Jinping, because Xi Jinping said, I will open the Chinese market for you. You open your entire infrastructure infrastructure for Chinese investment. China controls very large infrastructure, including railways, seaports, airports. They said, you must give us free investment. They were short of investments. They wanted market. They were over-living. Their social security system has taken over the family responsibilities. They have nationalized the families. The government is the father, the government is the son, the government is the daughter. With the result, there was tremendous pressure on the government. Expenditure was high. So investment was less. They thought the best thing is to allow China to invest, and in return for China to give us the market access. In 1 month, the entire thing changed. unless you see all this, how politics and economics works together, how certain think tanks can change the world, you will not be able to understand what changes will take place at what time in the world. You know, suddenly in April 2021, there were problems in Xinjiang of human rights. You know, in Xinjiang there were large Muslim population and China was crushing them. This is happening not today. It has been happening for 30-35 years and America was just looking at it like that because they were friends who were doing it. And even Pakistan was keeping quiet because Pakistan was bribed by China. And so Xinjiang Muslims had no friends. They were being crushed. Hundreds were being killed. And their mosques were being demolished. Suddenly, America took up the issue of human rights. Because Trump had set the policy of hostility to China. So it was easy for America to take the position against China. And you know, human rights is a very sensitive issue in Europe. So Europe also began taking an anti-China position. And China was so arrogant that in return for the sanctions which the European Union and America imposed on China, China imposed such harsh sanctions on European Union, declaring 4 European Union Parliament members as persona non grata. And one of them was the Green Party president of Germany, who was likely to become the German Chancellor. The European Union Parliament intervened and said that we will not approve the CAI. That broke the convergence between China and Europe. And there began, from 2021 June onwards, the entire reformulation. Europe and America getting together, European Union as a one coming together, NATO declaring China as a threat to the free world. In 1 year, just this French president Macron changing, the Italians giving up Chinese, the entire interlocutory role being played by Australians, the picture changed. It was an unthinkable development, I can tell you. So the Europe-America came together again. The only thing America did wrong, it could still have maintained its supremacy, but America did not want to be only a supreme country. It wanted to be the decider of the world. And you know what the Russians did? Russians were very sincere in the 1990s. Gorbachev, Elstsin, and Putin, they all said, sir, let us give up this whole thing. Let's not fight hereafter. We are willing to be part of NATO. Russia said. You know what Americans said? No. That all countries have to agree and you have to make an application. See the arrogance. Then they kept on expanding the NATO. The Warsaw Pact countries, which ceased to be communist countries in 1990, they were not part of NATO. America began admitting them as part of NATO, bringing the NATO border near to Russia. Russia said, why are you doing it? Putin even said, I am willing to be part of European Union. They said no. Their idea was to finish Russia. Trump said, don't do it. Trump was outcast. In fact, he was even declared as being in collusion with Russia. NATO expansion, and finally, Ukraine is sharing 2,500 kilometer border with Russia. It is in the stomach of Russia. When Putin kept on saying, please don't expand into Ukraine. In fact, it is an admitted position. Ukraine is part of Russia. Ukraine and Russia cannot be separated. This is the admitted position by even American scholars. Ultimately, in its own interest, in the interest of its own security, Russia had to take this action. Please understand. America created Putin. None of us know this background. The whole world began declaring he is an aggressor. No. If Putin had not taken this action, Russia would have been finished in the next 5 to 10 years. Now we are in the 6th and 7th stage. Post-pandemic world itself was undergoing tremendous transition. The very builder of the post-Cold War world order, Kissinger, said, the world order will change forever after the pandemic. Now in the post-pandemic situation, the West is so rattled that the world order which it has constructed, which it has invested, which is its own model, is now slipping out of its hands. So, in Davos, 2 great men spoke. One was Kissinger, the other was George Soros. World order must be preserved. World order means Western order. It must be preserved. For that, peace with Russia is so necessary. Give up one half of Ukraine or whatever, immediately reach peace and understanding with Russia. This was the advice of Henry Kissinger. But Soros went one step further. Russia must be defeated and the Western world order must be made unchallenged. These are all open discussions in Davos, which is supposed to be an economic forum. Have you ever read this in Indian newspapers? So, now we are facing the post-pandemic and post-Ukraine world. Post-pandemic, one thing is certain, after the pandemic, the relationship between Russia and America and then China and America and then China and Europe collapsed. So the world order, which was based on some kind of rule-based trading, this, that and the other, that collapsed. The globalization is gone. And all the coupling and decoupling which were being attempted, coupling between European Union and China collapsed. The decoupling between China and America and the European Union, that had taken place, that got reversed. So a new situation arose in which for the first time India came into a prominent position as a nation which is to benefit by the whole world seeing China as a threat. First time the focus light turned on India. One of the reasons why it happened was that India was never considered to be a serious player at all till it exploded the 1998 poker and atom bomb. Everybody thought this is such a soft country, Buddha and Gandhi are its icons. The world respects power. It's a world of rowdies. In which unless you have muscle, nobody is going to bother. When India exploded the poker and atom bomb, first statement came from the American president, Bill Clinton. He said, a land of Gandhi and Buddha has done it. We were always a land of Buddha and Gandhi. Did you look at us? Only when we accelerated the poker and atom bomb, then you began coming, queuing, having agreement with us, putting us in the head table. What was the power of China in 1965? 75% of the people were below the poverty line. Why you went and besieged China in 1971? Because China had an atom bomb in its hands. India's acquisition of atom bomb completely shifted the Indian personality in the world. Afterwards, we began playing the global game. One of the finest things that happened, for which I must credit Manmohan Singh, is the Indo-US nuclear agreement, which formalized our position in the nuclear world made us deal with the nuclear powers as equal, though technically they are not accepted as a nuclear atomic power. It still formalized our position. But the break occurred in 2014 when the world felt India has a serious leader, it has a popular mandate, there is a stable government. Then you can see the kind of strategic agreements that were entered into. People queued up to have strategic arrangements with India. The most important thing which is happening is the strategic agreement between Israel and India. Many people do not even know what is the kind of intimacy that has grown. We have been able to bring together the Arab countries and Israel. We have the best of relationship with the Arab countries. Pakistan has been removed from Arabic countries, virtually. It's now a beggar. The shift is so perceptible that India has emerged as a very serious player. At that time, the Ukraine thing happened. America thought India's support is taken for granted. India said, we are not going to support you, nor we are going to support Russia. They were stunned. How could this happen? How can India stand up? It happened. We stood up. Because of that, even China got respect for India. They thought India is only a handmaid of America. And I don't know whether you have seen in the month of March and April, Delhi was flooded by foreign leaders coming, signing agreements, $42 billion agreement, and the Japanese Prime Minister's first ever visit was to India. Then the Australian Prime Minister had a virtual meeting. They all completely endorsed India's stand, and America was shaken. And America said India has an unsettled mind. First, we were not bothered. You say anything. Now you know what has happened? In Quad, which is dominated by America, there was a proposal that Russia should be condemned. India said we will not be a party to it. They had to completely remove it. Quad had to take the Indian position. Southeast Asian countries were addressed by Biden. Not one word they spoke about Russia. They said we are not going to talk about Russia. And America sent the message that Mohammed bin Salman should make a call to the Americans because they wanted him to expand the oil production. He refused to make a call. They sent a message to Xi Jinping that you must call us. He refused to call. Biden had to call them. And he said those who untied the tiger will have to tie it again. This was his comment. Then they expected the Prime Minister of India, Modi, to call Biden. Modi said, if you are calling Xi Jinping, you must call me. Biden had to call the Prime Minister of India. You know how beautifully the Prime Minister of India acknowledged it. This is not even noticed by our media. He said, I am extremely grateful to the American President for having taken the initiative to call me for this meeting. You know, today India is the most sought after destination because in the world's interest, the worth of India is being recognized not because it is a creation of one government, it is a creation of 5,000 years of sustained work done by our civilization. I will tell you, you go and look at website, Power Kills. That is the website. It was built by Professor R.J. Ramal. For 30 years he worked to build this website, in which for 2,500 years he listed mass killings of human beings by human beings all over the world. And he estimated that something like 1.2 billion people were killed in mass action all over the world. He said till the 13th century, there was no mass killing in India, except 3 instances. One, Ashoka's Kalinga War, in which 100,000 people were supposed to have been slaughtered. Second is Thuggees. This is the name given for dacoits. And Sati. Because these are all the bad brand builders for India. Ramal said, in which the killings were not even tens of thousands. But this is how we are branded. We have killed our widows. We have killed the rest of the world, blood in its hands. He has given the dates of killings. How many people died? We had a civilization which did not shed blood. We must understand that. That is all weighing with the world today. So we are speaking about it. We are talking about our civilization. India was not born on 1947, 15th August. We are very clear about it. That is the date on which we became free again. But we were born thousands of years back. You know, Xi Jinping, when he addressed the 100th anniversary of Communist Party, he said, he's a communist. Communists never look to the past. They said past is bad. You have to only look to the future. History is always progressing like this. It's not cyclical. So past has to be discarded. That is why they demolished everything worth having in the past. Whether it is Buddha statue or whether it is Confucius or their literature, they burnt everything in 1965. But Xi Jinping said that we are a 5,000-year-old civilization. It has sustained us, it will continue to sustain us. The world was done, communists were done. You must ask our Marxists, what do you think about Xi Jinping's statement? So massive changes have taken place in the world. How India has arrived? India has arrived because China was wrongly promoted by not only America but by the West by making it the sweatshop of the world. So the cheap source in the supply chain, that concept is over. You are all business people, you must understand that. No more cheap source supply chain will work in the world. People want safe source. That's how India is relevant. Throughout 2020, 21, and it is continuing in 22, every country is looking to India to shift its production. We are not going and asking you shift. We are saying we are here. If you want to come, you come. Huge shift is taking place because of the global shift. Post-pandemic, it started. Post-Ukraine war, it has intensified, and India has arrived because of its unique position and because of its unique stand that it has taken in the war, which has made India a respectable power with independent mind to stand up to problems which will face. This was shown against China. Arun Shourie wrote a book during UPA period in which he was describing in the cover the meeting that took place between, pictoriously, the meeting that took place between Xi Jinping, no, at that time, Xianjian, I don't remember. Manmohan Singh, he goes like this and 45 degrees he bends. This was the serial photograph he showed. We had succumbed to China. In Doklam, what happened, I will tell you, because personally I have had discussions with our people as to what happened in Doklam. 25 years in Doklam, China has been building its military, road, infrastructure, everything. We have been writing letters. There is not a border. Why are you doing it? Because from Doklam you can see the chicken's neck. And if they keep 100 guns there, the entire chicken snap can be snapped and the northeast will go out of India's control and China can just walk into Arunachal Pradesh. So we have been pleading, all governments, from Vajpayee government, Manmohan Singh government, please don't do it. This is our territory. We will do whatever I want. Who are you to this? This is sovereignty. You know, the kind of letters that China had written, I had personally seen, it was humiliating. We decided we will go and demolish 2,500 crore worth infrastructure. India demolished inside Chinese territory and put the Indian flag. China did not, because they have never known India could react like this. Then of course there were peace meetings and all that. Finally they said, it was in the year 2018. This happened in 2017. 2018 said our Congress is coming. We want to settle this matter. But we don't want to be buckling. You know, Congress is for China to talk like this. And finally, they said, you please give an impression, at least optically you are withdrawing first, and then we will withdraw. We said we will monitor each step we go back, and you go back. This was done over a period of 2 months. And finally, the Chinese said, please take your national flag. This could not be tolerated by, not Xi Jinping, I am telling you, he is still a friend of India. He wants to set right the relationship with India. But it is the PLA which is against India. Because if India is not the enemy of China, 70% of the PLA has no job. And they are mixed up with the Pakistan army and the Pakistan system. These are all the inside stories. We are having problems, as every country has problems. But India's time has arrived, and the post-Ukraine situation is highly favorable to India, and Indian businessmen will have to look for global opportunities today. The Tanjore dog, Talayati Bommai can be made an international product today. People don't want China products. So we must now think big. Even small people can do big business, because the world needs a replacement of the existing supply chains. So India's time has arrived. There are many other points to share, but I don't want to go more into it, except only one point I want to mention about how Putin handled the sanctions of America. You know, the American sanctions were unilateral sanctions. It's not a sanction by United Nations. It's not I am saying it, you must do it. The world was doing it. So they said, you must do it. Europe was finding it impossible to do, because even though Russia is producing only 8% of the energy, 75% of that was being purchased only by Europeans. For them to become independent of Russia's energy, it will take another 4 to 5 years, including for Germany. So they are not able to do. You have to do it. You have to do it. Where will you go? Bulgaria said, there are two laws operating. One is political law, another is physical law. Political law, I agree with you. Physical law, I need my house to burn. What will I do? I can't do. This is the kind of division that has taken place. In fact, latest statements from the German Foreign Affairs Minister that European unity has almost collapsed. But you see, when America put the sanctions, everybody thought Russia is over. But they had thought about it in advance. This is how a nation with its thinkers, with a government that is nationalistic, thinks ahead. When they put the sanctions, the value of ruble halved. But the moment Putin said, I will sell fuel only for ruble, the value came back again. Now it is on a 4-year high. And he went one step further. He told the Russians, you please sell your gold at 5,000 rubles per gram, which translates to about $58 per gram, which is about almost the same price as the free market price of gold. You know what is the strategy? Now they say they don't have ruble. Say you pay in euro, because euro may be confiscated. He is buying gold, so he is transforming ruble into gold via euro, and his inflation rate is 16%, but American inflation rate is 8%. American inflation rate is going to go up because they have printed money, bought goods, cheap goods from elsewhere, supplied the goods to the people, so they exported the American inflation. Now, they are not able to play the same game again because they are not able to expand the dollar. With the result, they have to produce their own goods, which means their cost will go up by 10%, 15%, 20%. They are hoping, they are now facing a huge inflation issue and reversal of globalization and dominance of the American dollar. In 1997, the US Federal Reserve System declared that we are not bound by the rules of monetary laws framed by Mr. Milton Friedman. We have become a global currency, and so we will not publish the M3 and M4 data of dollar. Openly they said, but now they are coming back to it again. It is now becoming an American currency. It is a huge consequence for the world because the rest of the world's currency expansion depends upon the American credit expansion. How the world is going to work it out, God alone knows. These are all huge questions before policymakers, think tanks, economists, and nations. But one thing is definite: multilateralism is gone. It is going to be the future is going to be bilateralism. And instead of common currency, I think fiat currencies of countries will be exchanged for goods, maybe related to gold, but a huge change in the world monetary order is coming. All this will have to be worked out in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for an excellent and thought-provoking lecture. And then now the floor is open for Q&A.
Thank you, sir, for an extraordinary presentation. We are all very much enlightened. Tackle this. Number two is there a possibility of India annexing Sri Lanka in the near future, if not Pakistan?
Sir, the second question is easily answered. I don't think India should annex any country for that matter. We should ensure those countries live their own life. We should help them. We have a huge civilizational and other relationship with them. We should not even think of it. In fact, this kind of questions being raised in an audience will also be a huge trouble for them. India has never been an annexing country. This is the only in one who was the Chinese ambassador to America. He gave a speech in New York in 1946. He said India kept our mind dominated for 2000 years without sending a soldier out. You must understand. Our influence over the world has been through benevolence, our conduct, our character, our literature, our soft power. Hard power of India should be there to protect its soft power. So we should never even think of it. So far as